Hey everyone, welcome to the Naked Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Sage Hobbs, author and creator of Naked Communication, and I'm so psyched you're here. This show is all about taking charge of your life in new and inspired ways to create a life you deeply love. It's about being more you in all areas of your life, more courageous, more free, more alive, more naked. I'll be sharing stories and advice from amazing people around the world who are up to incredible things on how they are successfully breaking free from fear and old patterns in order to create incredible relationships and impactful lives so that you can do the same. This is the place to be inspired to live a courageous and naked life. Let's do this. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Naked Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Sage Hobbs, and I am so grateful that you're here in this conversation about how to live a more courageous, self-expressed, impactful, meaningful, fulfilling life and use your voice to really connect with people and make a difference in the world, whatever that looks like to you. So this is episode 40. I am really pumped that this is episode 40, and I'm just going to celebrate that for a moment because I don't think we celebrate our victories enough. We often harp on what we haven't yet gotten or the ways we've perceived our own failures instead of celebrating like small wins along the way. So I've decided 40 episodes is a milestone. I've recorded 40 episodes of this podcast, having never had a podcast before, not knowing what it would entail, not knowing how to do it or how to get it out into the world to all of you. So I am psyched. I want to always encourage you, and I do this with my clients all the time, to celebrate where you're making progress, where you're growing. There's some real belief in happiness comes in progress, not just in the final outcome. And I don't remember who said that. It might have been Tony Robbins may have said something like that. But this idea that we have to wait until we've arrived versus what if we were really noticing our own successes, victories, wins, accomplishments, progress towards a goal along the way. Instead of just celebrating the marathon, what if when you get to 2 miles and then 5 miles and then 7, you could really be proud of yourself? So this is episode 40, and you can find the show notes over at sagebhobbs.com/episode-40. And while you're over there, you can check out other episodes, incredible interviews with some very inspiring and courageous women who are in all sectors of work and life, sharing their stories with us on the show. You can also check out the book, Naked Communication, which I'm going to speak more about today in today's episode. And you can figure out how to work with me if you're interested in that. If you've wanted coaching on how to really show up more powerfully in your leadership, in your relationships, how to really create a life that has meaning and value to you, your way, on your terms, and really reconnect with your vitality and your sense of freedom, then you can check that out over there as well. So today, I'm actually going to do something I've never done on the show before, and we'll see how it goes. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this, if you want more of it, you can always email me at sage@sagebhobbs.com. I will read all of them. Or you can directly message me over on Instagram, which is the most likely social media platform to find me. I'm not huge on social media, but I do enjoy Instagram, and I'm currently doing a lot of stories over there and just kind of sharing parts of my life with you. And you can message me over there if you want more of this kind of episode. So I'm going to actually read a chapter from Naked Communication, Courageously Create the Relationships You Really Want, which is the book that I released, I believe it was November of 2016. So right around the United States election, I remember it was a lot of conflicting feelings were going on for me. So I'm going to read chapter 2 because I spoke about the sort of foundation of the book and exploring our ways of communication in a couple of earlier episodes, which I will link to in the show notes. And some of you may have already read the book. And if you have, then you just get to hear this in my voice, which is what some of you have asked me to do. And it is kind of funny to read my own book. I'm not going to lie, but I want to experiment with it. And some of you have asked me to do that. So we'll see how it goes. And then after I read the chapter, which is pretty short, I'm going to tell you a few more stories about what I've thought regarding this topic since actually writing the book almost 2 years ago. So chapter 2 of Naked Communication is your communication MO. How are you currently communicating? And this is really one of the foundational pieces because we have to understand ourselves best if we expect anybody else to understand us and relate to us the way we want to be related. Some people really have said, we train people how they relate to us. I think that's an interesting concept, right? That we kind of teach the world how we want the world to respond to us. So it's important to really get clear on how you're actually currently communicating and know that you can tweak, adjust, transform completely how you communicate in your life. So there's hope and possibility if you're not super psyched on what you discover after I read this to you. So here we go. It's like, I feel like we should be around a campfire or something, or I don't know, at the library, but I'm going to go for it. And again, let me know how it goes, what you think. Chapter 2, your communication MO. How are you currently communicating? I'm a straight shooter most of the time. Very often, this approach to communication serves me well. People know they can trust me to be honest. They know I will let them know if I'm upset or have a concern, and that I'll stick around long enough to work it out in a way that feels good to both of us as much as possible. Other times, being a direct communicator has gotten me into some trouble. I've hurt people's feelings or offended them by speaking too quickly without giving enough consideration for how my suggestions or opinions would make them feel. For example, when I was 22 years old, I had my first quote-unquote real job, and I was fired up about it. I had a million ideas about how to support kids and make change within the Philadelphia public school system. This was no small task for a district that had been chronically underperforming for decades and was riddled with challenges. I would sit in meetings with bright, committed, and hardworking women who were my superiors in both age and leadership experience. Since I'm a straight shooter and extremely passionate, I'd openly share my ideas, offer suggestions, and give my feedback. After a few months in my new, shiny, exciting job, I was called in for a meeting with a couple of these powerful women, my bosses. I can't remember the exact words they used, but what I heard was that I needed to tone it down. I was being too brazen with my suggestions. I seemed like an overly eager, young, white Philadelphia schools, and much of their leadership were predominantly African American, know-it-all. Basically, who the hell do you think you are? You've got to slow your roll, was what I heard. I was absolutely mortified. It was the exact opposite effect that I'd hoped to have. I wanted to bring upbeat optimism and create lasting change. I really didn't want to piss off a whole bunch of women whom I admired and respected. It was a momentous growth opportunity for me. I called my dad, who was a masterful communicator, connector, and coach, for some advice. He guided me to apologize for any offense I may have caused, take responsibility for how my excitement was misinterpreted, and make a request to partner with them and work collaboratively on our shared desire to help kids. It was one of the scariest and most courageous conversations I'd ever had at that point in my life. And because of it, I forged much deeper connections than would have been possible before, when I was unaware of how my communication style impacted others. These women whom I'd initially rubbed the wrong way became my mentors, and I learned a ton from them throughout my time in that role. Those connections wouldn't have been possible if they hadn't given me the gift they did, which was to communicate with me about how I could express myself more effectively and humbly, though it didn't necessarily feel like a gift at the time. You have to consider the myriad ways that you already communicate, not just in conflicts, though that's a key area, but in expressing love, offering your ideas, and making requests. Ask yourself the following questions to deepen your understanding of your own communication habits and to see more clearly what your communication style is. How do you approach conflicts? Do you meet them head on, wait until they're too glaring to avoid, or something in between? Do you fight mean or fair? Do you bring in months or years of past evidence to fling at them? Or do you directly share when you're upset, why you're upset, and make clear requests about how to resolve the problem? Do you express your love and appreciation openly and generously? Or do you assume that others know how you feel about them already? How much and how often do you really let others know what they mean to you? When your friends are making dinner plans, how do you express your desire for the restaurant or time that works for you? Do you go with the flow and end up resentful eating Korean barbecue at midnight when you're an early bird vegetarian? When your boss asks for feedback on a new project or initiative, how do you contribute or not your ideas? Willingly, fearfully, confidently, hesitantly? When the cashier at the checkout line asks how your day is going, how do you respond? Passively, honestly, reciprocally? Do you ask them back? These questions help you get at some core communication styles. Think about which ones of the following apply to you. You really want to be honest with yourself here. No one's reading over your shoulder. Remember, the clearer you are about your own communication, the better you'll be at building awesome relationships, which I know we all want. So, confrontational or avoidant, assertive, passive, confident or timid, direct or subtle, demonstrative or withholding, exuberant or restrained. None of these are bad, and none means that you're a terrible communicator. You just want to know yourself and strive for growth and balance. If you're like me and you tend to be direct, you may need to consider when that's appropriate and when it ticks people off. I'm also super demonstrative. I love to show love and affection, which most of the time works out well. However, my kids would sometimes appreciate if I didn't smother them in kisses so publicly and yell out my devotion so loudly. Knowing yourself leads to growth and balance. All day, every day, you are communicating. We have countless conversations a day, as well as texts, emails, posts, body language, etc. By looking at how you deal with different opportunities to communicate, you'll start to see a pattern emerge that shows you some of your communication habits and tendencies. We get a million messages about how to communicate and be in our relationships. It can be extremely confusing. I'll give you a list of some of the countless messages you may have received throughout your life. You can check off those that were commonplace in your household or community. Really notice how you've ingrained these messages as truths and consider how they have had a profound impact on how you connect or struggle to connect with others today. Here they are. Sweep it under the rug. Wait until it blows over. Actions speak louder than words. Sticks and stones will break your bones, but names will never hurt you. Just walk away. Stand up for yourself. You don't want to step on toes. Don't let people walk all over you. Chin up. Speak up already. It was just a joke. Don't let them see you cry. Get over it. And a particular favorite to say to girls, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Are there others that were family mantras in your childhood? Take a minute and think about it. Write them down. The magic in this exercise is this. These are just words, not truths. You can choose to adopt them when they serve and inspire you, or let them go when they're bullshit and keep you disconnected. What's critical is to observe yourself and identify how you are currently communicating with everyone around you. How you communicate directly impacts how you show up in the world around you. How does your communication make people perceive you at home, at work, in your community, with your friends? Is your communication powerful, insightful, confident, shy, nervous, distant? Why is this so important to this conversation? Because we must know how we already function so we can identify the areas that are working well and the areas that are not when it comes to strengthening our ability to connect. Relationships are the foundation of everything in our lives, from our family to our work to our happiness, truly. And connection is at the heart of relationships. Yes, money, time, sex, career, laughter, books, movies, health, and adventure all sound great too. But without the relationships that celebrate, encourage, and participate in those other aspirations, they're meaningless. Really. The happiness and fulfillment you seek doesn't exist in a vacuum. It lives in relationship with others. I'm going to read that one more time. The happiness and fulfillment you seek doesn't exist in a vacuum. It lives in relationship with others. I've talked to countless women and many men about their challenges and dreams. The common thread is the universal desire to have deeply loving, meaningful, and fulfilling relationships. The access to those types of relationships is communication and connection. Naked communication is simply the tool for connection. Connection is the juice, the meat, the heart of it all. So that's chapter 2 in the book. Very interesting for me to notice what comes up in reading it out loud and what I would change and my own inner perfection demons sort of rising up again. But as I read it to you, I still feel connected to the heart of that message, that our relationships are the life force behind our experience of being alive. They're what make our career and our work experience more pleasurable, more pleasant, more meaningful. They're what makes our marriage or our partnership more intimate, more passionate, more connected, our parenting more honest, more true, more loving, all of it. So I continue to examine my own communication MO. I still am a straight shooter. I'm still all about really being naked and showing up and being self-expressed. But as I've gotten older, I've also gotten more nuanced about it. And I hope I've gotten better at knowing when it's valuable to bring up hard things and when it's best to give them a little space and a little air. I've also been working on and continue to work on how I do things differently with different people in my life. So for example, my kids are really different. I have both a son and a daughter. They are 9 and 5. And they came into the world as different humans. Same parents, same basic life experience and opportunity. And how they respond to me is so different. And I really have to work to be more gentle with one than the other, and more careful with the tone of my voice, and more aware of how damaging my words can be with one of them more than the other, and their sensitivities to different things. And it's been such a lesson for me that, yes, of course, I want myself and each of you to be who you are, to be real, to show up and really be self-expressed and feel free. And we live in the world with other people who have different experiences, different backgrounds, different abilities and capacities for managing what we say and what they hear and what they experience, right? And if I can be really responsible for how much space I take up, for how loud I can be, for how direct I can be, so that I can feel really connected to the people I love, or the people that I work with, or the people that I want to know better or understand more, then I can be an even more powerful communicator, a more effective communicator, somebody who builds bridges instead of walls and brings people closer together, who understands different worldviews, different perspectives, different experiences, who understands how to nurture, who understands how to empower or champion or advocate. I need to know how I use my voice and my natural communication style so that I can use it effectively and wield it for good and wield it for change and wield it for connection. So what I know is this: how we communicate matters, and only you have control over how you express yourself in all areas of your life. That is what I have for you today. You can go deeper with this, of course, by reading the book if you haven't already, or listening to more of the shows. The book, this is only chapter 2. Obviously, it goes much more fully into stories of my own life experience, my own work experience, as a counselor, as a coach, as a speaker, all of it, as a mom, as a wife, as a daughter, all of it, and gets much more clearly into how you can transform the way you communicate in the world so that it really serves you and your relationships more effectively, more meaningfully, and with a lot more honesty. Thanks for listening. Share with the people in your life if this landed for you, and I will catch you next time. Thank you so much for listening to Naked Conversations. Yay! It really means the world to me every time you show up. And if you want to know more about how to work with me personally and my coaching, you can check that out over at sagebhobbs.com. You can also get some great free resources over there about how to make powerful requests, and many blog posts full of resources for living a naked life, as well as grab a copy of my book, Naked Communication: Courageously Create the Relationships You Really Want. Thanks again. See you next time.